and first a proposition and to Lord Chris Smith. Chris Smith is the former Member of Parliament for Islington South and Finsbury and served as the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport from 1997 to 2001. While at university, you'll sense a theme here, he was President of our society, and most importantly, he's the Chair of Trustees for the Cambridge Union. Chris, you have the ears of the House.
Madam President, I have to say that's a better introduction than at a dinner I was recently speaking at, where the chair of the event turned to me as they were serving the coffee and said, "Do you want to speak now, or shall we let them carry on enjoying themselves for a while?" It is an honour to speak here once again. It is, in fact, I have to say 40 years is nothing. It is 50 years since my presidential debate here in this chamber half a century ago. And I would observe to our friend from St John's College, Oxford, who I have to say made a brilliant contribution from the floor, I would just observe to him, Oxford does have more prime ministers. Most of them are really bad. And let me start by saying very clearly, New Labour did not get everything right. Far from it. The big elephant in the room has been mentioned several times, which is the Iraq War.
Yes. Congratulate you on moving the amendment that said we shouldn't go and invade Iraq without the agreement of the United Nations. Thank you.
You took the words out of my mouth. I proposed the two motions in the House of Commons that tried to stop us going to war in Iraq. And I was proud to lead 160 Labour MPs, new Labour MPs, into the division lobby against the Iraq war. Andrew Mitchell voted in favour of the Iraq war. Along with virtually the entire Conservative Party at the time. The Iraq War was a huge mistake. It was Tony Blair's biggest mistake by miles. He didn't get everything else right either. He was much too fond of PFI. He wanted contestability in public services, which was a disaster. I have a lot of sympathy with the case that Benjamin made about managerial targets and a managerial agenda. There was too much of that, but having said that, New Labour got a lot of things right. And we've heard quite a lot about all of them today, whether it's the Northern Ireland Good Friday Agreement, or the Human Rights Act, or devolution for Scotland and Wales. And actually, I think it's much better, much more stable, having Mark Drakeford running things in Wales than a Westminster government. Whether it's the equality legislation, the progress, the real progress that was made on LGBTQ rights, whether it was the thousands of new schools, the class sizes below 30, the Sure Start centres, the crime falling from 16 million incidents to 10 million incidents over the course of a 10-year period. The freedom of information legislation, the right to roam in the Access to the Countryside Act, the establishment of the minimum wage, and yes, the indoor smoking ban. It's wonderful to go into a pub or a restaurant and not have to breathe in everyone else's smoke. But I want to focus just on two things, because actually the point that was made from the floor about this is about real people, it's about real lives, it's about the opportunities that people get to have. And one very dear to my heart, it's been mentioned happily a couple of times already, free admission to all the national museums and galleries. It took me 4 years to achieve. It was a wonderful moment when we finally managed to get it done. And the Science Museum invited me to come and cut a ribbon and throw open the doors, and we had a lovely little ceremony. And about half an hour after that, I was wandering around in the foyer of the museum, and a young man carrying his little daughter on his shoulders was making a beeline towards me. And as he came up towards me, he turned to his little daughter and he said, "I want you to say thank you to this man. It's because of him we're able to be here today." That's the difference a government can make. And then the sheer fact that child poverty halved during the period of new Labour government. It's now going through the roof as we speak now. But during that period of Labour government, child poverty halved. The number of lives enhanced, enabled, and eased by that effort by a government. Let's not say that wasn't saving Britain. Yes, it was, because it was saving the people of Britain. And that is what the new Labour government did. But it's not just about a list of measures, however worthy those measures may have been. It's about the whole nature and approach of a government that puts the quality and development of public services first, a government that believes in the value of entrepreneurialism, but believes in the necessity of social justice too, a government that recognises value as well as cost. And just remember what New Labour replaced. A Conservative government that had run out of steam, that was starving the NHS and public services of funds, that was buffeted by a series of scandals and incidents of impropriety. A bit like now, really. It's no surprise that a government coming in with a progressive, liberating agenda was greeted so warmly by the public, and it was, in that moment in 1997, and then got re-elected again twice. But there's something more to add as well. Since New Labour left office, we have lived through the Brexit referendum and all its ghastly consequences. When New Labour was in power in those early years, it went wrong after Iraq, I absolutely accept that. But when New Labour was first in power, we were an internationally minded, globally engaged, civilized country, respected around the world.
If I may. In what sense is this country not internationally respected? In our response to the war in Ukraine, where we have led Europe in terms of both financial support and also in sheer numbers of arms that we provided. We remain a globally interested nation. We remain a world leader. I think it is incorrect to claim that New Labour has a right to claim that.
The response of both Boris Johnson's government and Rishi Sunak's government to the war in Ukraine has been absolutely the right response. The decision at the outset to support with funds, with weapons, with assistance, with training, all of those decisions, absolutely the right thing to do. I have to say it is probably the only thing that Britain has done internationally over the course of the last 6 or 7 years that does carry respect and justice across the world. On the whole, I would argue we are regarded with pity by most places across the world. We have severed unilaterally our relationships with our biggest, nearest trading partner, the European Union, for what? For blue passports? I want to see the internationally minded, globally engaged country back. I want that country back. That's my country. And when I want to take back control, I want it to be a very different kind of control from that argued for by Nigel Farage. But the fact that we are so diminished as a nation now, compared with what we were in the early 2000s, it's a demonstration, of course, that Britain can be saved, but the saving can then be undone. And that is precisely what has happened. You cannot save permanently aspects of a country. What you can do is save for the here and now. And that, I would argue, is what New Labour did. And I would also argue we need saving again.